5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning here, bright and early with you on ATYL, Facebook, YouTube, and X, formerly known as Twitter. I am your host, SlideJobSal. This is the Splash and Dash Morning Show. Excited to get everybody locked in today. I know it's kind of rough. No race this weekend. It was the big game, but it is Daytona week now. Those days are behind us, thankfully. And we're getting ourselves set up for a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful week at Daytona. Besides all the rain that's in the forecast, but we're not going to talk about that or think about that or even acknowledge that rain exists in the state of Florida. Hopefully some of you are catching this live as you're driving down the interstate to get to the track. I've seen some people already down there, already camping for the week. Looks like it's going to be a great week. It's a full one too. I mean, I was looking at the schedule last night, and my goodness, it is just it is just packed to the gills with, I don't know, just everything all week. I am going to do my best to pull up the chat. There we are. Okay. So excited to get everybody's thoughts today as we start the show. These glasses are being annoying. What was everybody's thoughts about the weekend, about this past weekend, the Chiefs and the Eagles? I know this isn't a football show, but Chase Elliott was in attendance at the old Super Bowl. He got his 15 seconds of fame. They even made him a little lower third. That was nice of the Fox team to give him a little shout out. Good for the sport. Chase Elliott at the Super Bowl. Didn't really seem like he had a horse in the race, which for me is great because, you know, I don't need my drivers or my sports people like in the Eagles. So don't need it. But we're gonna get rolling this morning. Not sure if we're gonna do a full 2-hour morning show. So if you're coming in now, stick around because we might cut it in half. We might. Just simply because there's not maybe as much going on as we may have previously thought. But it's really dependent on what we all chat about this morning. How's everybody doing this morning? Tuesday. Yesterday was Monday. Monday, arguably worst day ever of the week. We're coming out of it. We're turning around. Listen, you didn't have a worse Monday than every light pole in the city of Philadelphia or every unsmashed window in Center Street, on Broad Street. Appreciate everybody coming in on the TikTok as well. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and X on ATYL Media, as well as on the SlideJobSal TikTok. You can follow me at SlideJobSal everywhere you find social media handles available. I'm usually somewhere existing. But no, we've got a big week coming up. And we know that speed weeks are, unfortunately, a thing of the past in the way that they used to be, right, with the Clash and then back to back with the races throughout the week. So our week will kick off on Wednesday. NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying will take place Wednesday, February 12th. Oh, yeah, baby. This is it. It's finally time. The action is here. It's happening. Wednesday, it starts. Cup Series practice qualifying. Thursday, you'll have the ARCA Menards practice. You'll have the Craftsman Series practice, and then the duels in the evening. Both duels, 60 laps. So this is kind of a symbolic time of year for me. This was really the time last year when I started to really pay attention to like my social media side of things. for SlideJobSal and really enjoyed getting to build an audience online. The duels specifically were an event that really was a catalyst for me for that. So I love the duels just because of the nature of race your way in. I know there's been a lot of conversation about the provisional waiver this week, and I know that Denny Hamlin had comments. You may have seen them. Taylor talked about them a little bit. We reposted that on social media, and he doubled down on it, which is even better. I love a good double down. Talking a little bit about how, still, I agree. He thinks it stinks of desperation, and it's an interesting rule. I heard Corey LaJoy talk about it too, where, he made a similar remark for the provisional, saying, we got former champions that want to run this race. They're not guaranteed spots. Why should this guy get guaranteed a spot? So, I totally get that, but there will be a 41 car field one way or another. We'll see who can make it in, though. That's the beauty of the duels. What's going on with the lawsuits with the NASCAR owners? So, all right, what to know about the lawsuit? This is published on January 10th. So the last major update, January 10th, was NASCAR's antitrust lawsuit. There was a motion for it to be dismissed by NASCAR, and that motion was denied. So that's where we're kind of sitting right now. NASCAR wants it all to just go away. And that is simply not the case. I never noticed how many articles Bob Pockrass actually writes. Like, he's on social, but my goodness gracious me, oh my, he writes a lot of articles. He's really the only person that I've come to trust in terms of lawsuit updates, unless it comes directly from Jeffrey Kessler or the teams, just because the information is so complicated, and I don't want to give bad information. Eli in the TikTok chat, what's going on, brother? Long time no see. What are you up to? Looking for a job? Hey, man, got to get out there, got to get grinding, get pumping. From Ohio, it's considered to be better than that. Indy, from Ohio near Indy, is it considered to be better than NASCAR? I mean, I think people who are real Indy diehards think Indy is better than NASCAR, IndyCar. I don't particularly prefer it. I prefer NASCAR over IndyCar, but it's a matter of preference. We're all here to win together. But back to the schedule, right? We'll have the duels on Thursday night. Those are fun. Arguably can be more fun than some of the actual racing. Friday, you're going to get qualifying. Almost a full half of the day will be qualifying for ARCA and Craftsman trucks. You'll get Xfinity practice and Cup practice, and then the truck race will be at 7:30 p.m. The truck race last year when I was there, God, this is yellow flags the whole time. So, hoping these guys can kind of keep it straight and give fans some good racing on Friday night. I'll be watching it all. I don't really have too many plans this weekend. Friday is Valentine's Day for all you lovers out there, whoever you're loving on and loving with. Saturday, SlideJobSal turns 30. I'm an old. Somebody just called me Unk in the TikTok chat. It makes me feel like it. And then Sunday's the big day. Sunday's the big Daytona 500. Live 10 minutes from Talladega now, 20 years. The fans don't show up as they did in the 2000s. Well, I mean, the racing product has certainly changed, especially at Talladega, right? I was at Talladega in the spring of 23. Yes, spring of 23. And that was the year Kyle Busch won. I mean, it's just different. It's a fuel mileage race. It's a savings race. Guys are out there just trying to make sure they make it to the end. And it's a long race, but it's not. The last 10 laps are kind of really the only thing that matters, and it's just kind of the way it goes. Hopefully, as we move into the future here, I've talked about it a little bit over the last 2 weeks. We see some changes to the next gen car that maybe, or changes to the playoff format that inspire some new racing styles or inspire some new incentives to really get to the front of these packs and make it exciting racing. Um, I think they should make all the cars 1,000 horsepower again, but I'm not in charge over there. So, on Saturday, Xfinity, arguably the best series in NASCAR. This is its last year as the Xfinity series. Just touches my heart that we're going to get a new sponsor next year. And it's like, oh, Sal, it's just a corporate sponsorship. But it's not, because I've been calling it the Xfinity series for like second nature. It's great marketing. And I hope a brand like Anheuser-Busch realizes the brand awareness campaign that this could be for them and come back and be the Busch series. I hope. But the Xfinity series in its final year will do qualifying 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. Ride the Dente 200. That's the name of that race. What does that mean? 80 lapper ARCA. I'm going to go over some of the drivers that are entered in these races as well today. We have the one and only Cletus McFarlane entered in the ARCA, the 200 lap ARCA race, or the 80 lap ARCA race. Then you've got Cup practice after that. And then you've got the United Rentals 300, the 120 lap race at 5 p.m. The Xfinity cars. Ryan Truex will be back on track, defending his win from last year. So exciting to see, some of these Xfinity guys get the year kicked off and get things rolling. Again, another race that is sure to be action packed. A lot of bumping and touching and grinding to get everybody acquainted with each other. This is Xfinity and Truck's first time on track for the year. They did not do a clash style event in those series. So it'll definitely be something. And then obviously the United Rentals wraps up. And then Sunday at 2:30, you've got the Daytona 500. The lineup will be set. Guys will be ready to go, and it'll be a good time. I mean, it's never not a good time, even though people complain. I do want to go over. I do want to go over a few things. All right. Well, you can get the tickets. You can get an ARCA and a Saturday doubleheader ticket. It's too late for me, but you can still get one. Let's see. Schedule ARCA Menard series. Will it show me a driver lineup? Race info. So see, Ride the Dente is a Chili's sponsorship. Very interesting. Very interesting. I like the ARCA Menard series. I think there's something special to me about it that I don't know. I feel like everybody, if you want to get your shot, this is the place to do it. It's not out of touch to get a chance in the ARCA series at this stage of life. And anybody, if you get a good business relationship, you can slide on by. I was there in 2006 when Tony Stewart flipped on the front stretch of Talladega. Ooh, scary. That track produces some bananas moments, especially in those older cars, the Gen 4s and the car tomorrow, when things were really wild. Morning live stream. I'll be at the Daytona 500. I'm thinking Kyle Busch or the underdog driver will win the race. I think you've got some good intuition there, Zach. I think you do. Kyle Busch has definitely been talked about a lot in the last week and a half as kind of this dark horse to win at a super speedway. I don't know if you guys listened, but I listened to Richard Childress's interview with Dale Jr. Dale Jr. Download. I always like to try to listen to all those podcasts out there. I have a handful that I listen to, including a handful of those that are produced right here by ATYL. And it's just interesting, when you hear it from the horse's mouth from Dale Jr. and from Richard Childress, though, it seems like there's been a big shift in the culture at RCR. Those are Richard Childress's words, not mine. So, it's very inspiring to me to kind of hear him say that and to see him take actionable steps toward, some new things happening at RCR this year. And he seems very hopeful that Kyle will have a great year and that Austin Dillon is going to have a great year. So I don't know how that's going to, shuffle out for everybody, but dude, what's going on in the TikTok chat? Salvatore's doing well. I don't know. I think RCR's got some challenges ahead of them on the Cup side, but talk about RCR and their Xfinity rides. This is why I love Xfinity so much, because everybody seems just to be out there doing it. Jesse Love, Austin Hill, those guys are heavy hitters. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Full entry list for the 2025 races. I mean, you've got a lot of cars in here. Duke, what's going on, brother? Okay, that's a schedule. I don't need that. So we've got our entry list for the 500. I also want to do this for the Xfinity series as well. And the 0-1 is Corey LaJoie. He'll race his way in. You have Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric, Austin Dillon, Noah Gragson, Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski, somebody that I see as a real contender here. It's the way you talk about Kyle Busch being good at super speedways. You have to talk about Brad Keselowski being good at super speedways because he is just the pusher. He is the one who will be at the front. The pusher never gets wrecked. He just wrecks everybody around him. And we know Big Bad Brad's he's got a little bit of a penchant for using that front bumper. Justin Haley, after what I saw at the Clash, I would not be surprised if my man's does not make it to the end of this race. He didn't make any friends at Bowman Gray, so be interesting to see if there are any repercussions that are coming this week for him. Kyle Busch, another the dark horse driver. I don't know if he's really a dark horse driver. He performs so well at super speedways. Chase Elliott won at the Clash. Can he win back-to-back weeks at Daytona? William Byron won here last year. That Hendrick camp has a real good idea of what they're doing here in this car. So maybe there's some advantage for him there. Ty Dillon, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, AJ Allmendinger, Chris Buescher, Chase Briscoe, Christopher Bell, Josh Berry. That 21 looked really good at the Clash. I'm curious. He seems to be driving with some renewed sense of urgency over there. Josh Berry. So I want to see that 21 car do well. Joey Logano, 3-time champion, Bubba Wallace, William Byron, Todd Gilliland, who I think is going to have a great year this year. Todd, that whole FRM team, I feel like is on the ups. Which is wild to think about. A couple of years ago, FRM was a team that, you kind of scratched your head at. And now it's like, okay, they're coming to play. There's been quite an evolution over there, which is awesome to see. You got Riley Herbst, Zane Smith, Justin Allgaier will run in the Junior Motorsports entry, which is essentially a Hendrick entry. Everything being built over there. Cole Custer, in the for the Haas factory team. John Hunter Nemechek, Eric Jones, JJ Yaley will race his way in. Tyler Reddick, Ricky Stenhouse, Alex Bowman, Cody Ware, Ty Gibbs, Martin Truex Jr., Tricon Garage, the 56 Bass Pro Shop car. He'll race his way in. Ryan Preece, Anthony Alfredo will race his way in. Chandler Smith will race his way in. Michael McDowell, Carson Hocevar, BJ McLeod. Live Fast Motorsports. He will race his way in, and he will be in, let me tell you, because my man knows how to run super speedways. Jimmy Johnson will race in the duels, I believe. I don't think he's a gimme driver. I don't think he's got the provisional. Shane Van Gisbergen, Helio Castroneves, and Daniel Suarez. Castroneves, again, a guy who gets in no matter what. So however you feel about it, it's going to be the way it is. All right. And then we move on. We move on to the Xfinity Series. This is my bread and butter here because I think the Xfinity Series is the most competitive series in the sport right now, and I don't care what anyone else says. That's what I think. Sheldon Creed behind the wheel of a new team this year with the Haas Factory team. Carson Quapple behind the wheel for Junior Motorsports. We were just talking about RCR, Jesse Love in the 2. Parker Retzlaff will get a second chance after his his Harrison Burton race-winning move to assist the young man back in the fall. People said, "Oh no, Parker, your career's over. You helped a Ford. You're a Chevy. Oh, Parker, it's all over." Parker's back for Alpha Prime. Thank goodness, because team orders are dumb and they make no sense, and guys should just be out there racing. Chris Wright for Our Motorsports in the 5 car. Patrick Emmerling will be out there. Justin Allgaier, Sammy Smith, Daniel Dye, and Josh Williams will be running for Kaulig Racing in the season opener. Garrett Smithley, Christian Eckes, William Sawalich, and Justin Bonsignor will be out there for the season opener. Brandon Jones, Austin Hill for RCR. Ryan Truex gets his ride with Sam Hunt Racing. He's going to defend the crown. Harrison Burton will run with AM Racing. This is a guy that I'm really curious to see how he kind of takes this gut check season. I don't know how long his contract is with AM Racing, to be really completely honest with you, but should be some exciting things from him. I'm excited for things from him. I think he is a talented driver. I just think, he's got to sharpen the sword a little bit if he wants to make a resurgence back up to the Cup Series. He's obviously got the sponsors and the funding to do it. It's just a matter of building that racecraft up a little bit more. Dean Thompson will run in the 26. Jeb Burton, Kyle Sieg. We have a TBA announced driver for the 29 for RSS Racing. I would assume that's going to be the other Sieg brother. Maybe not. Blaine Perkins, Jordan Anderson, Greg Van Alst. Greg Van Alst won this event a couple of years ago in the ARCA series. So good to see him making that big bump up to the Xfinity Series with Joey Gase Motorsports. We got Sam Mayer with the Haas Factory team. Going to be weird seeing him there, not at Junior Motorsports. Anthony Alfredo, Brandon Poole, Cesar Barrichello, Nick Sanchez, Jeremy Clements, Taylor Gray, Leland Honeyman Jr., Ryan Ellis, Connor Zilich, Josh Balicki, CJ McLaughlin, and Matt DiBenedetto. That will round out your field of Xfinity drivers. I know it just sounds like I'm sitting here saying names, but I have to go. It's good for me to go over them with y'all so that when I turn the TV on, remember who all the drivers are when we start racing. Who I'm curious to see race this year, though, is Matt DiBenedetto. Matty D. He's kind of a conundrum. Seems like just the nicest guy. Love his social presence. I hope that it's very genuine to his real world self. But I really hope good things for Matt DiBenedetto. I remember when he was running, and I really started getting back into NASCAR. He was running really strong in that 95 car. And he almost won. He was winning races. Second place at Bristol. I mean, the guy's got talent. Had some sponsorship issues, so he's making the long climb back. But I don't think there's ever a point where it's too late. So he's out there grinding every week with Viking Motorsports. But I do love the Xfinity Series. The Xfinity Series is so much fun. Did I say Shane Van Gisbergen was in this in part-time? No, he's not in the Xfinity opener at all. It'll be Zilich. I'm curious to see how Connor Zilich learns ovals too. A lot of the conversation around him is, road course. I think that's fine, but he's going to have to figure out how to do the ovals too if he wants to really win a championship. I think he obviously has the talent. It's just seeing it unfold on track. And let's shout out to J-Ski's Silly Season site, by the way. Shout outs to them. As a wonderful resource for information sometimes when even NASCAR.com doesn't have what you need. By the way, you can sign up for a newsletter. I'm actually looking at it right now. On the Above the Yellow Line website, www.abovetheyellowline.com. I'm going to try to get exactly the link. Exactly the link. Articles, interviews, articles. Let's go over there. I feel like that's where it should be, right? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Huh. Okay. I'll have to find it. I'll have to find it. I can't find it. Not good. We're talking trucks. We are talking trucks for the Fresh from Florida 250 on Friday night. Whew. Truck Series. Huh. 2025. Yeah. Yeah. Some interesting names on this Truck Series list. We're talking about William Sawalich. We're talking about Josh Ream, Mason Maggio, Tony Breidinger, Norm Benning is going to make a run for the race in the Truck Series. Michael McDowell, Justin Haley, Grant Enfinger, Corey Heim, Jake Garcia, Tanner Gray, Giovanni Ruggiero, Tyler Ankrum, Daniel Hemrick, Jason White, Dawson Sutton, Brian, I'm sorry. I'm going to mess your name up, brother. I apologize in advance. Brian Duzat. Frankie Muniz, everyone's favorite Malcolm, will run at Daytona. He'll run a full season in the Truck Series this year. Lane Riggs, loving what I'm seeing out of Lane Riggs, preambling this season. Guy's hyped up. Guy's ready to go. He don't want you to think his performances last year were flukes. He's ready to get after it. He's ready to do more. We got Chandler Smith, Matt Mills, Bailey Curry, Caden Honeycutt, Stuart Friesen, Timmy Hill, the greatest iRacer of all time, Timmy Hill, Johnny Sauter, Raja Caruth, Parker Kligerman will run, Spencer Boyd, Andres Perez de Lara will run in the Spire Motorsports entry, Connor Mozak, Justin Carroll, Jack Wood, Clay Greenfield, and Ben Rhodes. So it's kind of rounding out your Truck Series and your Xfinity Series and your drivers this year. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's going to be an action-packed weekend. I mean, when you sit back and you talk about the 500 is one thing, but there's just so much racing that's going to happen on Friday and Saturday. The duels, I think, are party of one. I think the duels in some situations can be more fun to watch than even the 500. There's that sense of urgency that you have to get back to the front. If you're not in the front, you need to be there. If you're in the front, you have to stay there. And I think, the nature of that race being so short really motivates drivers to do things and put on a show, trying to get themselves in a position to advance. Do you think Cletus will race this season? Well, he's racing at Daytona. So, he's got some good new partners. Let's see what Cletus is up to. Well, they have him officially listed on the old Google now as an American Motorsports racing driver. Is Cletus McFarland driving an ARCA stock car at Daytona? The ARCA Menard Series heads to Daytona International Speedway this week for its annual 2-day preseason test. Oh, this was a while ago. But he did participate in the test. He got a lot of praise from, folks in the NASCAR community. In the testing session. He is racing in the ARCA car in the 200-mile race. Let's see. He'll be racing for Rhett Jones Racing. I mean, he's a big personality to bring into the sport, and I don't think people are so focused on some of the drivers and the past champions of like motorsport. I think this is an opportunity, there's an opportunity to really bring in a young, different kind of audience from a different section of motorsports. Sector and section. We just put those two words right together. We made those one word. Cletus has 4 million subscribers on YouTube. So I'd love to see him be more involved in NASCAR. He does his stuff at the Freedom Factory with the Crown Vics. He's got NASCAR folks that are out there. I know Greg Biffle was there. Haley Deegan has been there. But there's such an overlap, right? So there's like Whistling Diesel's been out there, and all these content creators are out there. And I think content creators are a big thing. You want those people with that influence at your events and participating in your sport to help drive that new audience. From a marketing perspective, I feel like it just makes too much sense. I could see him doing the truck series in his own sense. He's driven an older chassis. I could see him doing the truck series down the road. I think this ARCA is a good introduction for him. I know he has some business relationships now that are developing. I don't know if that's part of what he's done to get this ride this year, but Sparky Speedway Jewelry. Sparky, you're doing great stuff, brother. Appreciate you being such a beacon of the community. That's all I got. There he is. I see Sparky all the time. You've seen Sparky everywhere. NASCAR bolo ties, left, right, middle. You were working with my man's TJ over at Green Flag Pit Stop. Sparky does some good stuff for all your bolo tie needs. That's the man's right there. Off topic, but by the chance, what mic you have. Oh, yes, we can talk about that in a second here. But real quick, Cletus, doing this and getting a little bit of exposure would be fantastic for the sport, just to overlap audience. I mean, it's going to be, he's got this energy drink brand, Kinetics, which is really something different. Maybe from a business perspective, he wants to put it on the race car all the time. Love to see him run some ARCA races. Love to see him run some truck races. I think he'd be phenomenal. Let's see. What kind of mic do we have? Sal has a Shure SM7B. Just like a podcast mic that you'd see anybody else run. It's connected to a Go XLR audio interface. Cletus is the next 7 time. I mean, hey, I don't know about all that, but I'll tell you what, I think he would put on a hell of a show. I think he put on a hell of a show. I think it would be great for again, that content machine, right? Like getting drivers involved on YouTube and vlogging and stuff like that. Cletus is in a whole different world. He's a part of a whole different community of enthusiasts and but of motorsports personalities. Let's see. Let's do a little searching up on the Freedom Factory, because this is a track that he bought, right? And it was going out of business, and now they have a full slate schedule of events at the Freedom Factory. Sparky, thank you for the follow, brother. I appreciate you. Man. But it's just there's a list of a calendar of events that goes from January 31st to December 19th at this track, knowing that this was a place that was going to shut down. Pretty bananas. They do racing. They do Crown Vic racing. They do burnout pit rate competitions. You have Ford Rangers. You have spectator drag racing. They do mini stocks. They do open wheel mods. Pure stocks. This list goes on and on. Pro trucks, super late models, and mod minis. Let's see. Can I download the list of? Oh, this is just like a list of what the vehicle must be. like a build spec sheet for the Crown Vic. I would imagine we put a Crown Vic, a SlideJobSal Crown Vic. I would love that. Not only owns half the drag strip that's on the same property. Yeah, there's another big racetrack for sale down in Florida. Not Southern National Motorsports Park. What's the one that they just went up for sale? Central Florida? Oh my God, they want a lot of money for this. It'd be wild to see them go to Freedom Factory for the Clash. That would be something. Talk about the neighbors being mad. They were mad that Cletus bought it to bring the racing back. I imagine they brought the Cup Series there. Woo-ha, they would be piping hot. Seminole Raceway is for sale. This is not the one I was thinking of, but this is a $6 million racetrack. Oh, it's right down the street from the one that I was thinking of. It's just such a shame to see tracks not be used. It hurts my heart, you know? Palm Beach International Raceway is the one that I was thinking of. Palm Beach International Raceway. It's right off Highway 710 in Florida there. It is for sale. I don't think they have a price on it. I think they just want to sell it to somebody who's gonna run the track. There's no oval, but there is a drag strip, a road course, a go-kart track. There's a dirt facility. There's so much happening over here. So if there's any big money viewers out there who are watching the SlideJobSal morning show, I would absolutely advocate for you to purchase this plot of land and really try to revitalize this track. Will it make sense financially? Probably not, but you'll be a hero to us. Opinion on the torque tube. You're gonna have to be more specific on what that is. I feel like if I Google torque tube, I'm gonna be in trouble. What is the purpose of a torque tube? To hold the rear end in place during acceleration and braking. It is a piece of a vehicle. Looks like it's a Corvette thing. The axle housing would suffer axle wrap, which is then the front of the differential lifts excessively during acceleration and drops down during braking. Well, we could talk about Honda joining NASCAR because I love me a fourth manufacturer conversation. There's a lot of conversation from Steve Phelps. A lot of conversation around a fourth manufacturer, and they're doubling down on that conversation in terms of like, hey, this is not BS. This is for real. We're talking seriously with the fourth manufacturer. I think it's great. I have been, in my personal time, I have run across a few folks who work alongside people at Honda, and every time I get the chance to ask somebody at HRC if they're joining NASCAR, they kind of just give me the eyeball. So they don't give me an answer, but they give me the eyeball, which means something to Sal for sure. But Steve Phelps says that NASCAR privately. Oh, that's another update too. Hold on, we'll do that one next. Steve Phelps says NASCAR is in talks with its 3 OEMs about evolving its race cars. That's another one. Hold on, I'm going down a list. I had a list. I got to go down the list. Tim Cindric stepped away. Wow, I didn't know that. Tim Cindric stepped away from his overall day-to-day leadership of the Team Penske racing programs. That's an interesting development for Team Penske. Tim Cindric's a guy that, last name synonymous in motorsports, but I didn't realize he had stepped away from his day-to-day operations. I'm not finding what I'm looking for. But I know there was a fourth manufacturer post on here that I wanted to look at. Where are you? All right, we'll go through this first. Steve Phelps says that NASCAR is in talks with its 3 OEMs about evolving its race cars and what the future power plant is going to look like. I'm going to read that again because if I want to clip that, the power plant isn't going to be the thing that people are going to want to hear. So Steve Phelps says NASCAR is in talks with its 3 OEMs about evolving its race cars and what the future power plant is going to look like, what the fuel is going to be, and what the body style is going to look like. How do we differentiate the series? That's from Adam Stern. That is an interesting conversation to have, right? We've talked about EV hybrid cars. We know that IndyCar is going hybrid next year. It's good for good, bad, or indifferent. There's some changes that may come to the Cup and Xfinity and Truck Series as we know it now. It's going to bother the ever living daylights out of me if I can't find what I was looking for. But Chevy will unveil its Blazer EV-R NASCAR prototype at Daytona as a like a promotional vehicle. So get ready for that. They've had this engineered car that you've seen rolling around, but Chevy will have, Chevy is moving out of the Camaro business in NASCAR, moving into something else. Right now, they're just labeled as Chevrolet. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on the back of that car moving forward. Anyway, and Steve Phelps, I could have swore I saw something about Steve Phelps talking about the OEs, the fourth OE, but while I'm here, I might as well talk about this other Adam Stern tweet. Steve Phelps says that NASCAR, privately owned by the France family since 1948, could sell an equity stake of the company for the first time in its history in the coming years, and that he thinks the sport needs to pick up the pace on global expansion. That could mean a lot of things. We talk a lot about how NASCAR wants to go international and how they want to do all different kinds of innovative things in the motorsports world. A lot of that is kind of bottlenecked by the people at the top sometimes who maybe don't feel the investment is worth it or that it's there. But when you have money coming in, like I use F1 as a good example because they have so much money from so many different investors and investment funds and people who are very deep rooted and involved in the sport. They're able to do a lot more. They're able to do that Miami race. They're able to come and do the Las Vegas Grand Prix. They have this opportunity to ship these cars and these people all over the world. So last time we tried globally, Australia replaced it with supercars. Yeah, I mean, you run that risk if you give it to people and don't keep giving it to them. They'll make a version of their own. Supercars are a good time though. There's a lot of tracks that don't deserve a second day, but there's something that do. I think eventually, when you talk about tracks getting second dates, eventually we will run every single track will have one date. I think that is how the future will play for NASCAR. I don't think you'll come back to a second. You'll come back for a spring and a fall race. All right, here we go. According to our to Reddit on NASCAR Reddit, NASCAR is close to adding a fourth manufacturer in the Cup Series. This is from Motorsports Wire, an article from Motorsports Wire, USA. NASCAR has been rumored to add a fourth manufacturer for several years, but none of the talks have gone across the finish line. From Dodge to Honda, several OEMs have been linked to NASCAR, and it only has 3, including Chevrolet, Ford, and Toyota. However, what is the latest on NASCAR's efforts to attract a fourth manufacturer? On the final week of the 2024 season at Phoenix, NASCAR held its annual State of the Sport address. Steve Phelps was asked about the potential for an OEM addition and gave a long and detailed answer. He said, "I would say it's that we're in different phases depending on the OEs. Right now, we're in discussion with several OEs about coming in. I won't get into exactly where those are and who they are, but we have an OE that is close. That OE has a buyout from those that are in the racing portion of that. So it really just comes down to the business portion, and we could strike a deal that is advantageous for them and us. Are we the right fit for their brand? Are we not? You know, so that makes it interesting to hear. I personally, you talk about Dodge coming back, as someone who works kind of in the automotive space, I would be really surprised if Dodge came back in the current state of Dodge. I think Honda's your best bet. Stellantis doesn't seem to have an interest in doing anything that costs them more money than they need to right now. And if you're paying attention to the price of Jeeps and Dodges and Rams and their domestic fleet that you can buy, you'll understand why I am saying this. How do you feel about dirt races? Should these be expanded? I think the more racing, the better. More racing, please. They do a dirt race in Daytona right before the Daytona 500 as well. So there's some good racing going on locally. Not super familiar with it, unfortunately. They do it at Talladega too. When I was down there, they a lot of the drivers were out there running around doing dirt racing beforehand. I don't think Stellantis, again, party of one. I have no information besides my own opinion and my own experience, but I don't think Stellantis is. I don't think their business objectives align with any motorsports at all. I mean, when we talk about Stellantis, they just did some leadership changes over there. I just don't think they're in a place where that would make sense for them. Do you think they will fix the fuel savings racing at Daytona? Well, the only way that you fix fuel savings racing at Daytona is to give the cars more horsepower, in my opinion. Let the cars be able to pass on their own without staying in the pack. The front cars control the whole race, and nobody's going to make any big audacious moves until they have to. And it's unfortunate the way that seems to be set up right now. Can they fix it? Yes. Will they fix it? I'm not entirely sure. I don't think there's a Band-Aid for it though, in terms of like, oh, we're going to give them a different tire. We're going to give them a different that. Like you can only do so many different little tweaks to make it work until people are like, okay, cool. We need more out of the car itself. We need more horsepower out of the car to make the drivers drive, not just, oh, a new aero package or a new shark fin. Like that's not doing it anymore. I could see a Red Bull entrance. Red Bull's back in NASCAR. I don't think they would enter the sport in like a manufacturing way. But they are back as a sponsor for Trackhouse for Zilich and Van Gisbergen. The 900 horsepower cars must come back. I hope so, man. The Gen 4 racing, I mean, I sound like such an old boomer kind of person, but the Gen 4 racing was really the peak. The car tomorrow was like right there as well. And it's tough. It's tough when the cars don't have the power they need. That's why I like the Xfinity series, even though they restrict some of the power on those cars. They're still set up in a way where drivers need to drive them with their own talent. I never thought I would miss the Gen 6 cars, but here we are. Those cars were freaky fast, the Gens. Compared to what we have now, the Gen 6 cars were freaky fast. Going to be like last year, follow the leader. Yeah, that's usually how it'll go. Turn it on the last 20 laps. I think NASCAR knows that, though. And I think that they're going to, I mean, you have to be able to put a different product on the track after last year. I feel like there has to be something that changes this year. I don't know, though. I remember the announcement that M&Ms were coming back. Did they ever reveal who they were going with? Let's find out. President of M&M's parent company, Mars Wrigley, Anthony Mason, pointed out it's a bit of a shift in our sports marketing strategy. Our consumer base is very distributed, but the point is that they felt they left Rowdy high and dry, and he could not find a prominent partner to support his team at JGR. Sponsorship has always been a driving force for NASCAR drivers. Blah, 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 blah. It would appear. Rumored only. FRM's Todd Gilliland was seen posing with a yellow M&M's helmet in a social media post. Although there's no confirmation from the driver or the team regarding the new sponsorship deal, fans online were quick to jump the gun, informing links. On the other hand, drivers do not feature a sponsor on helmets without a purpose, so this appearance of M&M's on Gilliland's helmet has certainly been the talk of the town. It certainly won't be him going. They won't be re-signing Kyle Busch, I would imagine. That ship has sailed. M&M's departing Joe Gibbs Racing was essentially the reason Kyle Busch left Joe Gibbs Racing. Ever since we got rid of the 5-lug rims, the cars are reliably horrible, or really horrible. I like the solo lug. I think it adds a different element to the sport. The 5-lug is great. I'm not like a discriminator, a lug nut discriminator, but I think it's made it a little bit. But if they can get the wheels to stop falling off, that first year was rough trying to get guys to like tighten down those lug nuts, the new guns and stuff. Daytona is too big of a race for the sport to have it going the way it is. Yeah, I agree. I mean, thankfully, there's really not any other big racing events that compete with the 500 weekend. So it's really the only, it still builds the hype. It still garners the attention that it should as the Great American Race. You got prominent personalities and people who come out, and it's really more than just the race for people. But I would love to see them make a shift to, I don't know, improve the racing product. Yeah, it would be interesting to adjust some of the parameters to make fuel savings more of an afterthought. I don't know how you really would accomplish that. You got the stages, right? You're just saving enough fuel to not have to pit again for the final stage. But like there has to be a way to make the other, there has to be a way to make the Daytona 500 every lap impactful versus the Daytona, 490, where only the last 10 laps are really make a difference. Oh man. Yeah, well, you're gonna jam slam pack 3 months worth of action into 1 week between and that's really what the purpose I think of Speed Weeks was at the beginning, right? You do the Clash, you do the duels, you do the ARCA race, you're doing the Xfinity race, you're getting, you're getting multiple events in 1 week at the same track, kind of making up. I enjoyed the off season this year. I'll be honest with you. I think there was a lot of racing happening that I never would have paid attention to if NASCAR had been on. So I watched 24-hour Le Mans or Daytona. There was a lot of dirt racing that was happening this off season for NASCAR. That was really fun to pay attention to. Some sport car racing was happening. That was fun. Just a lot of different things, but I do think the 500 needs to get a little bit more competitive. Should Gen 6 and older cars get their own series so that people at Hendrick Motorsports don't have to sell? No. No, they shouldn't. The Gen 6 cars. I mean, they do have like a NASCAR vintage series. It's like a multi-class kind of thing. They do it at like VIR and a couple other tracks regionally in the Southeast, but I don't think NASCAR will ever do like a sanctioned like series of former gen cars. Would be interesting to see what drew viewership, right? If they gave the fans a choice of on a Sunday, do you want to watch the next gen car, the Gen 6 car, the car tomorrow, or the Gen 4? What would perform best? What do you think about the new pit crew equipment being used in NASCAR? I don't know what you're talking about, to be honest with you. Fire suit rules? Is that what we're talking about? Maybe I need to be educated on that. Real quick, where do we see dirt races streaming wise? A lot on YouTube. Flow Sports. I don't pay for the Flow Sports like subscription, but I see a lot of preview stuff on their YouTube channel. That's where I catch most of what I see. There we go. What date was this? I always got to check my sources. I always got to check my articles. In the name of cutting costs and meeting safety regulations in the Craftsman Truck Series, the NASCAR is placing design restrictions on both over-the-wall and behind-the-wall fire suits for race teams next season. A memo was sent to teams. Behind-the-wall pit crew members will need to have submitted designs for their fire suits. These suits cannot have sponsorship branding and must follow general guidelines. Crew member garage shirts are at the team's discretion. Sponsorship branding is allowed. I haven't seen anything beyond that. Well, I want to do a little preview. So we talked a lot about the 500 specifically. Dirt racing, again, yes. On Mav TV, you can get it. You can see them on Mav TV on YouTube. You can see them on Flow Racing. There's all kinds of places that they broadcast dirt races now. I try to get out to the dirt track. I try to get out to Bridgeport and New Egypt up here by me. I don't get out there as often as I should because I don't live particularly close to those tracks. But I try to get out to one or two a year. NASCAR trying to take a strong. Well, it doesn't surprise anyone that NASCAR wants to like make everything a single source, single sourced from them. It gives them more control as the governing body over the sport, especially in a period of time now where they are under such fierce fire from, okay, well, there's a lawsuit happening, an anti monopoly lawsuit or a competitive lawsuit. What are we calling it? Antitrust suit is what's happening. It would make sense that they want to get an even stronger foothold on things so that they don't have to give up as much maybe in the future by providing teams and drivers with single source parts and tools. We're really getting some good questions. Should Rallycross go to Indianapolis using dirt and paved tracks for a car? That'd be sick. I'd love to see like WRC get a little bit more love, get a little bit more spotlight. We talked about Nitro Cross on here last week. It's like the Travis Pastrana version of it's like a motocross rallycross hybrid. It's like motocross with cars, which is super cool. But I'd love to see more of that. Like I said, more racing is more better of any type. Oh man, this shirt's going in the garbage. I think after today, I think I've used it to its last neck stretch. Should they want all this control? They're looking at selling a portion of their ownership stake. Yeah, that's what they do. I don't know. It's very confusing. Will we see more NASCAR bolo ties in 2025? I'd like to see one right here. I'd like to see one right around over here. But yeah, I think we will see a big research. You know what's funny? I asked my fiance I was like, we're planning our wedding for next year. And the first thing I did was everything is about like, is theme. She's designing the themes for this. She's choosing colors and the floral patterns and how she wants everything to be. And I'm just sitting over here like, chewing my tongue, trying to figure out like, all right, cool. Like, what do I get? What's the cool thing I get to do as part of this ceremony? So I pulled up bolo ties one day. What? She was not a fan of the bolo tie. We did make some concessions, though. Checkerboard socks. We're doing checkerboard socks. Talked about doing checkerboard shoes. We talked about I saw like NASCAR Cup. Ooh, tie clips and cufflinks. Could be the move. Doing some racing related things in our wedding at the end. You know how like they do like the sparkler parade at the end? I'm just gonna get like a 100-pack of checkered flags, hand them out to people, let them wave the checkered flags. It kind of makes sense, right? That you get to the checkered flag, you get married, the whole thing. But the bolo tie conversation was the first one that we had. But I my neck's naked here on the Splash and Dash Morning Show. If there was ever a particular bolo tie manufacturer who would want to be part of the program, I would love for that to become reality. They're green. Yeah, it's very like sage green. I'm putting the grooms in boxes together this week. I don't have everything for them yet, so there's still a spot in the box. The white flag as you walk down the aisle to the altar, the checkered when you leave. The checkered when we leave is definitely what's going to happen. Oh, damn. Jeff Gordon, Nick Oretsky would go hard. Especially, I grew up a Jeff Gordon guy. Would be huge. Black flag for objects. We might need to wave the black flag on a few people. And then as we get into the reception, you throw the yellow. Well, party fouls are yellow flags. When somebody hits the floor too hard, it's a yellow flag. I'm getting donuts as part of the dessert tray. I'm doing donuts that are like looking like tires. That's my other little sneaky thing. She's like talking to me about, oh, the cake will look like this and this will be the package. And I'm like, all right, great, wonderful. And then I'm like, I want a tray of donuts that look like Goodyear tires. That's all I asked for. So when you get married, you both walk down the aisle and someone should wave a green flag. I got to get a whole set of flags now. We'll have a flag instead of a ring bearer. We'll have a flag man. Her parents would love that. They're already enthusiastic about me wanting to move their daughter to North Carolina someday to pursue motorsports, a career in motorsports in some capacity. So. Boogity boogity boogity. Let's get married. Oh man. If I could get the officiant to rip that one loose at the altar, that'd be something. The reception is Victory Lane. It could have been a fully themed event. It could have been a themed event from soup to nuts, but we like plants. We like plants, and we like our wedding's going to look like the inside of a modern coffee shop. That's what it's going to feel like. A lot of sage, a lot of ivy, candles and water, Greens, a lot of greens. We'll see. I bet you people would take us up on a NASCAR wedding planning company where it's only NASCAR related. I saw there was a couple that got married in pit road last year, like behind the pit boxes. I forget where it was. I don't know if it was at Daytona or Talladega, but they got married at the racetrack while the race was going on, which is wild. You can get married at Charlotte Motor Speedway. When we were down there a couple of years ago, they have like wedding packages where you can get photos taken in Victory Lane and the start finish line and the whole thing. Tracks offer that as a venue. I am not like involved enough in racing, like hands on, to have done something like that. Like I didn't race like as a driver. I was financially handicapped in that way where I didn't get the chance to do that. I've kissed the bricks in the past, but not in the wedding sense. Imagine you did your wedding in the pagoda at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That would be crazy. That property is beautiful. If you know, folks, if you've never been, if you get the chance to go out to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that is really like one of the premier just motorsport venue destinations. But she likes NASCAR. She likes racing. It's just not the way I like it. Oh, man. All right, what do we think? I want to talk a little Xfinity series. Well, actually, before we do that, you know how weddings they invite people. You invite like your favorite brands and celebrities, and sometimes they'll send stuff. I want to do that with the NASCAR teams and see if they send me anything back. I don't think they would. I don't know if anyone's ever done it. Like, yeah, I'd like to invite Coach Joe Gibbs to the wedding. I don't know. Be interesting to see who would actually respond to you. I know people do it with like Chick-fil-A, and like there's brands out there that will respond back with like a letter, or they'll give you like Scrub Daddy gave people stuff. Oh, there's different branded sponsors. We'll see. Maybe we'll try a couple. But the NASCAR Xfinity Series is really what we're going to do a lot of focus on this year as we get the season rolling. We'll always talk a little bit about Cup. We'll always talk a little bit about trucks, and then some general like motorsports stuff that's happening out there in the world as it pertains to what is trending and what is popping and what's going down. But the Xfinity Series is going to be something that we really try to focus on this year. And I think for me, you kind of talk about like who's competitive and who's going to make the Final Four. I think you can already start to talk about that. Oh, I did forget this too. Jeffrey Earnhardt's coming back to run part-time for Sam Hunt. That's kind of a big deal. You know, I think that's a big deal. He's kind of the last active Earnhardt in any way, shape, or form, at least right now, to be racing at this level. So good for him. Happy to see him back on track. He did great in that one race at Talladega with Larry Mack. Just incredible to me that he hasn't been able to really get the security of a larger sponsor that he can kind of go that he couldn't go full time more consistently. But Xfinity Series, the Final Four in the Xfinity Series. This is not a hot take, but Justin Allgaier, defending champ, probably going to be back in the Final Four again. Sheldon Creed, the bridesmaid to a lot of races this year, second best. Now going over to the 00 Haas factory team ride, a Final Four appearance for Sheldon Creed. Austin Hill loves super speedways, loves Atlanta, loves pissing people off. He will be in the Final Four as well. And then last but certainly not least, Connor Zilich, the number 88 Chevrolet for Junior Motorsports. This kid, I think, is going to be the Xfinity Series champion this year. I think he's going to be Rookie of the Year. I think he's got all the accolades and all the awards right at the tips of his fingers. Oh, but that is my Xfinity Final Four early season prediction. Y'all can call this back in on the last week of the year and tell me how wrong I was. Denny Hamlin gives incredibly hot take on Dale Earnhardt's potential for modern super speedway racing. In a clip from Actions Detrimental, Hamlin spoke, saying they would have never survived in today's super speedway racing, citing influence of OEMs having on drivers to draft with each other. Do you guys remember when NASCAR let the drivers talk to each other on the headsets? That was a fun time. Yeah, it's race week. I pulled out the old. I have a few, and this one's one of my favorites, and it just never gets enough. Doesn't ever get enough screen time. But this is probably one of my favorite racing jackets. I got my Budweiser one. I got my Rainbow Warrior one. I got a few, but Mark Martin's the man. He likes Gucci, so it's like really hard to argue with a guy who has such a beautiful taste in music and pop culture. As the GOAT. My dad was a big Mark Martin guy growing up, so a lot of fun times watching Mark Martin. I saw somebody wearing this jacket at Dover one year, and I literally went on eBay and purchased one immediately. If I had all the money back that I spent on impulsive NASCAR purchases, I'd have a lot of money. Wouldn't have a lot of things sit behind me here on my wall, but I'd have a lot of money. NASCAR wrote an article about the 2034 playoff field, Cup Series playoff field. This is an interesting idea of like who will be in the Cup Series in 10 years from now at a high level, who will be the field of tomorrow. I didn't think you'd get an article about it. They have Joey Logano in here at 44 years old. They have Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell. They have Chase Elliott. They have Tyler Reddick, William Byron, Riley Herbst, Todd Gilliland, Raja Caruth. They have Chandler Smith, Corey Heim, Ty Gibbs, Connor Zilich, and Keelan Harvick. This is an interesting article. Thinking ahead like that to see the field of tomorrow. It's always interesting to watch that shift happen as drivers come up and down and go from Xfinity to Cup and Cup to Xfinity and trucks and all that. I used to do I did a video a long time ago of like my NASCAR collection of apparel and collectibles. There's quite a bit that I've accrued over the years. It would be a fun video to kind of do differently. Again, the gas can, some parts and pieces off cars that I've been to races and seen up close, and Daytona Flea Market. That's where we got the 36 door panel, the David Reagan door panel. See, there's all these different sources here for Xfinity Final Four that People are really getting hopped up. Jammed, I appreciate that. Thanks for being here. I promised Taylor that I wouldn't overstay my welcome this morning because we really didn't know what we were really going to chat about to a certain degree. Just because of the down week. You know what I did want to do now that we're talking about it is I did want to run down the schedule. I'm going to run down the Cup and Xfinity Series schedules a little bit, talk a little bit about each track. This was part of like my season preview idea. Maybe we could talk a little bit about what y'all's favorite tracks are and where you're going to races this year. I know I'm going to try to get out to at least a handful. Try to do Dover. Dover's in July now, thank God. No rain. I'm going to very much so try to get to the Coke 600 this year. That's been on my. I didn't go to the Daytona 500, obviously. So I'm going to try to do the Coke 6. I'd love to potentially do Darlington. Ginger, what's going on, brother? Good morning. Try to do Darlington, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to try to do some ones down in the South, in the North Carolina, in the Carolinas is where I'd like to stay. We'll see. But we start off the season February 15th, Daytona International Speedway in the Xfinity Series. We'll move on to Atlanta. Atlanta last year, we know how fantastic Atlanta has been recently after the repave for Cup and Xfinity. Oh yeah, dude. I missed you last year, but we'll have to link up and grab some icy cold beverages at Dover this year. I stay in Rehoboth usually too, so there's some good times to be had. Those are the only two races in February for the Xfinity Series. Then they head off to Circuit of the Americas. Connor Zilich is going to put on a show. Phoenix after that in March to kick off the second week of March. Las Vegas, one of my favorite tracks, Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I think it's just, I don't know if it's like a little slept on now, or I feel like the hype for Las Vegas Motor Speedway isn't what it used to be. Maybe I'm wrong, but I love watching them race at that track. You know, coming off of turn 2 there is so scary coming down the Nellis backstretch, where if you get in that wall, oh baby, you're cooked. But no, it's a great place to be. It's a great track to have on the schedule, especially this early in the year. Homestead, Miami. We saw what Homestead produced last year. It should be the championship track. So anytime we go there in the springtime is a good time. Martinsville, get your hot dogs out. Darlington, the Crown Jewels. We'll get Darlington, Bristol, Rockingham, and Talladega in the month of April. What a stacked lineup in April for the Xfinity Series. Darlington, Bristol, Rockingham, and Talladega. That is wild. Imagine the Cup Series doing Rockingham again. Woo-ah! That'll be a ton of fun. The Rockingham test looked like it went swimmingly. We saw Casey Kane out there doing things and enjoying his time and back behind the wheel, doing some part-time driving this year. But they said the track was like a roller coaster because it was the repave has that track moving so fast. So I'll be excited to watch. I'll be excited to watch that one. That's April 19th. The Texas Motor Speedway after that, and then Charlotte. That'll be your BetMGM 300. My nose is so clogged. Hold on. Okay. We'll do Charlotte, and we'll do Nashville. Then we're going to Mexico City at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. That's a road course, for those who don't know. Then we're going to Pocono. Maybe I'll try to go to Pocono this year. Pocono's fun. If you can get up real high, see the whole track. There was some good action for Pocono last year. Who's winning the Daytona 500, Sal? That's a good question. I don't really have the answer. Martin Truex Jr. is going to win the Daytona 500. There you go. He's going to come back in that Tricon ride, and he's going to push his way to the front of the field and win it. We're back at Atlanta in the end of June. Chicago Street Race is in 4th of July weekend. Then they head out to Sonoma Then they're back in Dover, July 19th. We'll see you there. That is where we will be, always, every year. Unless Sal moves, as long as I'm in the Northeast, Dover will always be on the list each and every year. Hopefully the ticket sales reps over there at Dover don't hear me say that, because they'll start calling me forever and always. I don't need them to call me forever and always. Cody Ware is winning the Daytona 500. I don't think so. I don't think that's what's going to happen. Then they'll head to Indy, back at the Oval in July, the end of July. August takes us to Iowa. I love Iowa. That's a race I want to go to. I don't know what's in Iowa. I don't know how to get to Iowa. I don't know what city I would fly into or how I would get to the track, but it's in Newton, Iowa. That track is going to be so much fun in the future if they continue to run that. Last year, watching Blaney tear that place up was great. Watkins Glen after that, maybe we'll head to that one. That's not far from me. It's about 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours north, 3 hours north, west. People don't realize how big New York State is, by the way. New York State is a tremendous landmass. It's way up there, like by the Great Lakes-ish area. Not really by the Great Lakes-ish, but as you're winding up that way. Then we're back at Daytona already after the Glen. Xfinity Series will head out to Portland. Then they'll be back at Worldwide Technology Raceway in Illinois. And then we get into the playoffs, right? So what are the playoff tracks for the Xfinity Series this year? Bristol, Kansas, Charlotte, Las Vegas, Talladega, Martinsville, and then ultimately Phoenix. This kind of brings me to my other point today too, which is, they're talking about making changes to the hold on. Talking about making changes to the playoff format. So in a perfect world, folks, what do you think a perfect playoff format looks like to you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with Hamlin that Dale Sr. and Jr. wouldn't have been as good on drafting tracks in next gen? I think there's some context to that statement that Hamlin made where, he kind of talks a little bit about how they have team orders now, and that the Earnhardts would not have gotten along so well with some of the team order stuff that happens in the sport today versus what it used to be back in their day, where you could work with any driver on the track. I don't know if I agree with it. I think the Earnhardts always found a way to the front at super speedways, but there certainly has been a big shift in what you can and can't do based on your manufacturer affiliation. I think it's silly. I think it's ridiculous. I think the competition, it jeopardizes the integrity of the competition of the sport to have team orders, but I understand why it happens. I get it. But I do think the Earnhardts would have found their way to the front. They would have run with each other. They would have been running 1-2 for DEI. So the Cup Series schedule, we started Daytona. We then head to Atlanta, Coda, Phoenix, Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville. I really hope we get another Homestead race like we got in the fall with Reddick and Blaney. And that track, just ripping that top line, it's so exciting to see. I mean, that track produces such competitive racing. I'll be excited to go back and watch that race again. I watched, last time I got excited about Homestead was in 2017. So we then go to Martinsville for the Cookout 400, Darlington, Bristol, Talladega. So the only one that's different in this stretch of April for the Cup Series versus the Xfinity Series is there's no Rockingham for the Cup Series this year. We need Miami races a year. Same with 2 Miami races a year. Same with Charlotte. Yeah, I mean, well, you get one toward the end of the year, right? I feel like somebody's ringing my doorbell, or maybe I'm just making more noise than I thought I was. Darlington, Bristol, Talladega. 1, 2, 3. This is a fun stretch of races. Kansas is one of my, whoops. No, I didn't mean to click on it. Kansas is one of my favorite racetracks for the Cup Series to visit. I think it's just nice, wide, intermediate track, lot of grooves, a lot of lanes for passing. Kansas can be a lot of fun. If it doesn't rain, this was a race last year that got rained out. They went back on a Monday. We had cars that looked so promising on Sunday. Rolled them back out on Monday morning, and it was a totally different race. I don't understand what happens during the period of rain to not rain in that time, but my God, we would have got such a great race at Kansas if it hadn't rained. They then roll into the All-Star Open at North Wilkesboro. I hope it's not a parade race this year. Last year, the All-Star race, obviously it was fun to watch. The most exciting moments in the All-Star race last year for me was watching Logano try to figure out how to get around lap traffic. And I really hope that they can improve the product of that race, whether it be through tire compounds or whatever. Making it more competitive for everyone here at the front would be wonderful. Or maybe focusing on the more competitive racing would be better too. I don't need to see the leader on the TV all the time. I just want to see what the closest battles are. I feel like broadcast doesn't really highlight that sometimes. Like they'd rather show you first and second and third, like spaced out going through the corner versus side by side action for 15th. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm party of one. But you got the All-Star Open and the All-Star race. That'll be May 18th. The Coca-Cola 600 is May 25th. Hopefully we'll see you there. That'll be on Prime. The longest race of the year. It'll be Larson's second try at doing the double with the new waiver rule in place, where if you miss the start of a race, you lose all of your playoff points, current and future, for the season. It's really kind of a middle finger to Hendrick. That's what that rule is. Jeff Gordon calls it the Kyle Larson rule. So I just don't understand why NASCAR wouldn't want to help promote their drivers at a national level and bring more exposure to their sport, like doing events like the double. I don't understand. I get you want your drivers to be loyal to your series, but the simple fact is, like, other racing series exist, and the Indianapolis 500 is one of the biggest events in global motorsports. I think I'm going to go to the 600 this year. Yeah, I've never been. I've really tried to go. I've wanted to be there that weekend. I've been to Charlotte Motor Speedway. I'm familiar with like kind of the lay of the land down there. I went for the Cookout Summer Shootouts one year. But I really want to go for a race weekend. I want to see Z-Max all lit up too across the street. I'm excited to kind of see what Charlotte Motor Speedway can do. Okay. Which team do you think will improve most and regress most this year? There's some easy answers to that, right? I think FRM is going to improve the most this year. And I think JGR is going to regress the most. There's a lot of competitive cars in the field this year, and more so than I feel like have ever been before. So it's gonna be tough for some of these legacy teams to really be as competitive as they have been in the past, I feel like. Yeah, FRM inspire the teams to watch. I agree 100%. They're investing so deeply in their talent pools. I mean, even Trackhouse, conversation around Trackhouse is going to be at the end of this year. What are they going to do to improve their roster with Chastain and Suarez moving forward? They have Chastain, they have Suarez, they have Van Gisbergen, and then they have Connor Zilic kind of on the roster for the future. So be interesting to see how that develops too. Do you think Cletus McFarlane starting an ARC race and hoping to get up to the Cup Series? I think he should bring a lot of money if he wants to get into the Cup Series. It'd be cool to see. It'd be really wild to see Cletus running at the highest level. But it sure would raise some questions if he did just pay his way in. But I'm excited just to see him run ARCA. I think it's great for the sport. I think it's a good connecting place to connect content creators and YouTube personalities and motorsports enthusiasts with NASCAR itself. You see, there's such a big draw for people to Cletus and the things that he does and the people that he associates with and the content that he makes. I mean, I would wager to say that whatever content Cletus makes from his Daytona experience, sorry, I would wager to say that whatever content Cletus makes from his Daytona experience is probably going to outperform some of the traditional broadcast metrics that are most associated with like success in broadcasting. That's just the power of the internet, impressions and reach and engagement numbers. Like there's more tangible data to show the interest of the viewers online than there is on television. And, I think that's part of the reason NASCAR has started to pivot their TV strategy to go to different places. Obviously, there was a financial incentive there, but I think when you have an online presence, it's different how you interact with the people, with the racing, with the content, and Cletus, I think, can really capitalize on that. And if that leads him to the Cup Series one day, wonderful. If it doesn't, I'm sure he'll want to be involved doing something, because once the bug bites you, you always want to be around racing. It's just how it goes. That's how we all got here in the first place. As a Larson fan, I love that he's doing the double, but last year it did hurt him in the playoffs. Yeah, it did. It definitely put him in a position to where he was playing catch up a little bit, and it did end up biting him. It'll be interesting to see at what point they want to make the choice to get on the plane from Indianapolis and come home. Pray for good rain. Pray for good weather and no rain, so we can see it happen. I would love to see. I think Kyle Larson is very capable of winning the Indy 500. You saw him kind of get his green. He's a little green last year. You saw him kind of get his ass handed to him on pit road there a little bit. But I think he's going to come back this year with a better sense of how to win that race, and he's got that team surrounded. He's surrounded by with McLaren and Hendrick, and if you listen to I think it's Zach Brown is the guy's name who runs McLaren Racing. He's fantastic. He's a fantastic partner for them to have, especially with a driver like Kyle Larson. So hopefully some success there on the Indy 500 front. But anyway, we go to Charlotte in May. Nashville, another track that's a ton of fun. That's June. Michigan, a fast track. Fast. If these cars had 1,000 horsepower, they'd be airplanes at this track. Then they head to Mexico. Then we're at Pocono. Then we're at Atlanta again. Hot Atlanta, June 28th. Going to be a racetrack that is going to produce a lot of fun moments this year. I'm glad with the new rule that the decision is no longer in their hands. He has to make Charlotte. I mean, I don't think they should get their playoff points taken away. If you win, you're in. That's the rule. You shouldn't lose your points. Chicago Street Course kicks off July. Sonoma, Dover, we'll see you there. Indianapolis is the 27th. Oh, not doorbell. Okay. Iowa is kicking off August. Watkins Glen, Richmond, and then we're back in Daytona. And then we all know how the playoffs kind of tracks work for the Cup Series. Darlington, some changes. Darlington, then we're going to go to Worldwide Technology Center. We're going to go to Bristol. We're going to go to New Hampshire. We're going to go to Kansas. We're going to go to Charlotte, Vegas, Dega, Martinsville, and then Phoenix. And it is a long season, kids. I always forget how long the NASCAR season is. It is just it's the shortest off season in sports. But it feels long, but it's really very short compared to the other major sports out there in America. I think part of the reason ARCA is televised this week is because of Cletus. That could be part of it. I think NASCAR. I think NASCAR understands the benefit of having the ARCA race on TV. There's obviously a sell to advertisers and sponsors to put it on TV, but I think they have more platforms now, right? Like there's more opportunities for the series to be put out there. So, like we're going to put ARCA on Tubi, or we're going to put it on Amazon Prime, or like there's more places for them to partner with broadcast partners to get these series out there to the world, which I think is great. And I think Cletus, if Cletus is paying attention, he's a smart guy. He will do all the things, and he'll have a good weekend, and he'll on the track. But I think he's going to bring a lot of personality to the whole event. That whole event, people will pay attention for him for sure. So I'll tell you what, if I had to draw up my 5 favorites, we're not going to count Daytona because I would have counted Daytona as one of my 5 favorites. Daytona's already happening. So if I had to pick 5 races to go to on the schedule and I could only go to 5, I would go to no particular order either. I would go to Homestead, Darlington, Bristol, I'm going to Dover, and then my 5th track, Homestead, Darlington, Bristol, Dover. Homestead, Darlington, Bristol, Dover. I need a big track. These are all small tracks for the most part. It's tough. I like Kansas, I like Iowa, and I like Charlotte. I think I would go to the Coke 6. I think those are my 5 for me. I like Las Vegas too. Not really a huge Martinsville guy. The current state of it. Sonoma's okay. The street course is okay. I like Atlanta. I like Michigan. They're okay. Nashville's okay. Texas Motor Speedway, kind of a hit or a miss. The Brickyard is one too. Yes, that is a good one to add up to the short list. I feel like I could go to 10 races a year if I had the money. If it wouldn't put me in the poorhouse. Like in a perfect world, we go to Daytona, Vegas, Homestead, Darlington, Bristol, Dega. I'd go to Kansas, Charlotte, Pocono, Dover, Indy, Glen. How many races is that? I'm just blasting through this. I wish I could. Got to have Martinsville on there. That fall race has been better the past few years. I'll have to pay more attention to it this year. I'll be honest with you. I only remember the Hendrick, the 40th year thing. And then the fall race was kind of mired in all that controversy with the team orders. And I don't think I got to watch that race. Every year, I miss the last 2 races of the year because of work. I am out in Las Vegas. I travel to Las Vegas on, what is it this year? November. Give me a calendar. Oh, I might be able to see it this year. So I work November 5th to the 8th or 4th to the 7th this year, which means the championship race is the Sunday prior this year for me for work. So this means if Sal has a big brain, he could fly out to Phoenix before Vegas, see the championship race. That would be wild. Maybe that's something we think about moving forward. But at least I'll be able to watch Martinsville and Phoenix this year. But in the last 2 years, I've missed both of those races because I've been traveling. So let's see. How much time do we have? We have about 20 minutes left. I didn't think I'd fill up the whole 2 hours, but I appreciate everybody for sticking in here and just chatting and having conversations with me this morning. That's kind of the whole idea of this show. And it's not quite as structured as other shows on ATYL, but I think we have a lot of fun just kind of chopping it up with each other. I am going to pull up the Wordle. I started doing the Wordle with my streams long ago. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'd like to create almost a point system where we can keep track of the chat winning, if the chat guesses it, or if I guess it first. Let me pull it up on here. Share screen, window, Google Chrome tab. Boom. Can you see it? Oh, yeah, dude. We're cooking with peanut oil now. The Wordle always takes some time. And the Wordle is always like the harbinger of the end of the stream. It's a nice way to kind of play ourselves out to some degree. Let me move my windows. This is like do you need a third monitor? It feels like I do today. All right. Oh wow, that got really small. Try to make it an equal size for everybody. Okay. So we talk about, what did we talk about today? We talked a lot about drivers, talked a lot about tracks, little preview for Xfinity and for Cup, Daytona weekend, ARCA, Cletus, talked about some racetracks that were closing down. We talked bolo ties with Sparky. Thanks for coming in, Sparky, this morning. We appreciate you, brother. Talked about what races we would go to. A lot about the 500. A little bit about Denny. I feel like we talk a little bit about Denny every week. A little bit about Indy. Fuel savings races. A couple of new followers here on the Slide Job account. So I appreciate that from everybody. Speed on the first try. That's what we want. Requested Wordle beginning. Well, there you go. S and E were in good shape. S at least, we'll start with that. No P. Okay. These are hard. Oh, whoops. That's not what I want. See what we can knock off the list. Nothing. Okay. Shell would put us with an E back in this line here where there is no E. So there has to be another vowel here, I would imagine. I would imagine it's consonant, vowel, vowel, consonant. That would be my I don't think sheet is SHEAT is a word. Sheer, again, though, this third letter can't be an E, right? Let's get the brain juices flowing this morning. Come on. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay. I didn't realize my head disappeared too. Oh, there you go. You can see my face down here. I haven't left you all. I hid the chat overlay from the screen, but I can still see everyone's chats. I think it ends in E. Like I know that D is not on the list. think you might be onto something there. Okay. So you have a situation here where we're S blank blank RE. I think this is where we're at. I think we're snoring. Oh, S blank ORE. Not store, not snore, not. There we go. Score. Gotta be score, right? Gotta be score. Super Bowl just happened. Wordle's prime time for this. There it is. There it is. Score is the Wordle word of the day. Boop. That was a close one. That was a close one. I was really feeling the heat. I was feeling the heat at the end there. I didn't want Jam. Jam was in the TikTok chat. I didn't want Jam to pull that one out from under me. I felt like I had a good. I gotta adopt the other streamer methods where they hide the chat the first 3 rows. I don't know if you've ever seen people who do that. They hide the chat for the first 3 rows and then they let the chat come in and guess. Makes it more like a competition. I don't know. Yes, pop that up. So that's kind of the end of for me today. It's 8:47 here in the East. Is there anything we want to talk about amongst ourselves here as we wrap up the last 10 or 15 minutes of the slide job, or not the slide job, the Splash and Dash morning show here on ATYL and on the SlideJobSal TikTok account? I'd like to encourage you all to sign up for the newsletter at abovetheyellowline.com. That's something that Taylor is working passionately on. Hopefully, I'll get a couple opportunities to maybe write some stories. I recently had an opportunity to write motorsports for a publication, but I haven't written word journalism. I haven't done in so long that my samples just are so old. And unfortunately, they were too old. So I didn't end up getting the chance to go any further with that. But hopefully you'll see some things maybe from me on the written side of things. The short form media side of the content space has really been the thing. So I think written stuff is great. It was a good opportunity. It was with maybe for like bigger magazines, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if maybe we can get more involved here on ATYL. We have some sponsor conversations coming up. I see 4,500 likes on TikTok on that stream this morning. Thank you all very much. Our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter audience on ATYL, thank you all. 19 of you hanging out in here this morning for just about the whole way. I know the first hour we were kind of just getting up and running. That's why this 2-hour format is so much fun, where we do the first hour and it really is a primer for the second hour. So I like to be able to do 2 hours if I can. I like being able to be here. I feel like that's like the minimum requirement to stream these days is a 2-hour show. Yeah, it's only showing me that 4,000. But I appreciate all the support from everybody. This is the 3rd episode of the slide, or that's going to take some time to really buck myself out of. This is the 3rd episode of the Splash and Dash podcast. I appreciate everybody over there at Above the Yellow Line. Make sure you're checking out everybody's shows, right? We have a great lineup of programming this year. Programming like I'm some kind of like TV director. There's just so much you can engage with, right? So if you like chatting with me in the morning, you've got me here every Tuesday morning. Then you've got Goat Talk Live. You've got Big Duke's Virtual Race Hub. You've got the Track Limits programming with with John, the motorsports enthusiast. You got ATYL Live. Well, you know that show well. That's Taylor's bread and butter. We've got all kinds of different things that we're doing this year. We've got Running Retro. We've got, Big Duke's on here all over the place. He's running in Xfinity or he's running in iRacing series there, as well as, talking about iRacing. He's running in iRacing, also streaming that as well. So a lot of good content series, some new playlists that have appeared on the YouTube channel. 4 Laps is an IndyCar like preview series that's happening. Like I said, Running Retro is this like history podcast, but this history series going back and kind of talking a little bit about the history of the sport. Collector's Corner is a diecast kind of deal that we're all contributing to. I have to do one for my diecast collection. I have like 50 diecasts in the living room. Y'all have seen like my tire table and some of my other diecasts and stuff on the wall behind me. But I haven't really done like a full comprehensive like rundown of what each thing is and how it got where it is and why I bought them. So maybe if that's stuff that you guys are interested in seeing, for me, it's like, oh, I bought that cool thing because I like it. But there's a little bit of meaning behind each thing. So I always appreciate you guys jumping in and chatting. Jam, thank you for always being the staunch supporter that you are. I appreciate you. AJ, thank you. Stock Car Talk, thank you. Jinja came in on the TikTok this morning. Sparky Speedway Jewelry, Sparky, you love Sparky. We need to work with Sparky. Chief came in, was chatting it up with Spray Bomb. I don't know what that means, but that's his name. Open Wheel, all on TikTok. You can follow us there as well as on Instagram. That's really the only 2 that I'm promoting this year for myself. I have a Twitch, but I never use it, and I have a Twitter, but it's just kind of because I had it before. I still have it. I don't really use it very much, just to kind of keep up with news and updates on NASCAR. I don't really contribute to it. Gotta send me. We're the hats. I only have 2 people that want hats. If I can get a couple more people who are really serious about the hats, I would be happy to order some more. Jam gets a hat just because he's him. But I need a couple. I need a couple more to be interested to order a handful of them. So I looked into some other designs for the Slide Job hats. Hopefully, there's some opportunities for some apparel collabs and maybe some things of that nature coming up. But looking to do more of that kind of stuff as we move forward here. Again, this is just the 3rd episode. We'll be back next week after a full week of Daytona. So we will have a very busy Tuesday. If this seemed like it was a little light compared to the first shows, it was. So, it's coming off of Daytona is going to be something special. We'll have a really good benchmark for the season, and we'll be able to talk a lot about what happened during the week, as well as what's going to happen in Atlanta. I think the duels or something, and the qualifying is going to be something to just get into the 500. So those will be talking points that we can kind of all go over together and understand and learn and really set ourselves up for a great year after the 500. I am super excited to see if we get a dark horse winner, especially after Harrison Burton was the guy in the fall. So who knows? I mean, you could end up with another shocker winner. Could even be somebody who's just not a full-time guy, which I think is interesting. It's interesting to have non-full-time drivers compete in this race because they race for something different. They're there to win. The other guys are there. They're thinking about points. They're thinking about the other 30 some odd weekends a year. Over under 2 wins for SVG. I would take the over on that. I'm not a gambling man. I hung up the gambling shoes a long time ago, but I would absolutely take over 2 for him. I think he's a shoe-in at Coda. I think he's a shoe-in at Chicago. I think Sonoma is somewhere that he can run extremely well. Anywhere road courses, Watkins Glen, we saw what he could do there. You could pencil this guy in for 4 or 5 wins, I feel like, and he's getting better at ovals. He looked good at the Clash on a short track that he had never run, style track he had never run before. I think, the way the supercar series is, maybe some of those fundamentals are similar, getting around some of those tight turns. But he looked really good at that track. So I always like a dark horse winner, and no one is really deserving. However, I see a repeat winner. Okay, so maybe we get a repeat winner here in the Daytona 500. William Byron, back-to-back Daytona 500s would be crazy. Those Hendrick cars will be up front. I guarantee you that at some point. Be interesting to see too. I know we real quick. Well, we have a couple minutes left. Be interesting to see you talk about dark horse winners and the dark horse Mustang. It took the Mustangs a long time to get going last year. It took them a long time to figure out how to get those cars to go fast. But once they did, we saw what Penske could do. We saw what RFK could do, and they just kind of took off. But I'm curious to see if they come into Daytona with that same speed, or if it's been like, has Toyota and Chevy been working on the offseason to come out, ahead of the pace, so to speak, on the tech side to make their cars a little quicker. Is that an iRacing practice in Sonoma? Dude is fast. Yeah, I mean, he's the real deal. That's truly all the way through and through. Larson, I think they asked Kyle Larson about like if he thought he could win the 500. I think his response was like he just wanted to finish one. He gets wrecked out of the 500 every single year. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't hate seeing Denny Hamlin win the Daytona 500. That'd be funny. I want good things for Denny Hamlin this year. I think the lawsuit really kind of motivates me to support him a little bit because of this whole situation there. And 2311. Tyler Reddick could win. He won at Talladega last year. Bubba could win. Bubba finished second at the 500 in the past. Yeah, if he could stay clean. Well, that's another piece of like I talked about last week where, we're in a place in the NASCAR world now where you really only have to win a handful of races to get to the championship and set your car up to strategically win a handful of races like what Penske does. That's why I think a 3-race championship format, like Final Four championship format, makes more sense. But maybe we'll see some changes in 2026. They're talking about it apparently. We could see some big shakeups. We're just at the beginning of the 2025 season, but you have to imagine the news we're going to get over this year in terms of OEs are going to come in and playoff changes could be made, and what about international racing? And there's a lot of opportunity for news this year in terms of we might sell a share of NASCAR to another investor. There could be a lot of changes this year looking forward. So we'll see what happens, but we might have a lot to talk about. The waiver, the double, what happens on track every year. It could be a great opportunity to really get involved with NASCAR at every level this year. Larson lacks the skill to maintain the lead, while other speedway experts know the moves it takes. Yeah, I mean, I think other guys are just more willing to take bigger chances. Larson to me is more of a calculated kind of racer. He likes to be comfortable, repetitive, confident in his racing style. At super speedways, it's just like you're just a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. It's you got to be ready for that kind of like anxious driving, and then having to like take big chances to make moves happen. Baby Gator could win if he makes anybody can win at the 500. That's the beautiful part of it. It's the biggest, it's the Super Bowl of motorsports, of NASCAR, of stock car racing, but it's really anyone's race to win. Anybody has just as much of a chance if they can get in with a good group and draft well. And I think that's like, you talk about like, oh, it's just a fuel mileage race, but I think that's the exciting part to me for the first 400 laps is you have to set yourself up. Even if it doesn't seem like, even if you're just riding around, like you're waiting for that opportunity to slide up a couple spots to put yourself in that position for that last restart, and be in a place where you can get a good run. I didn't think last year was controversial. I thought it was some questions need to be asked, but I didn't think it was like a controversial thing with Byron and Bowman out front. They used the scoring loop instead of the caution light. Definitely not as controversial as like the Parker Kligerman caution, the way that race finished in the Xfinity series. Like that to me was very controversial. It's going to be a decked out Hendrick car, Junior's car performing the 500. I mean, yeah, that number 40 Travelers Whiskey Chevrolet you'll see that thing up at the front. Especially that it's a junior entry. They pulled up to Bowman Gray and Dale Jr. had his own merch hauler still. The guy's just running super late models. He's out selling merch from current Cup drivers. So I'm sure he will have a lot of support for Allgaier and for that program this year for that open car. And I'm sure it'll be all decked out. Yeah, I'd love to see them get through one of these races and then not have just a giant wreck on the last lap. I'd love to see everybody just racing hard, getting big runs off of turn 4, trying to just get as much as they can through the tri-oval. Is that what we call it? Is it a tri-oval at Daytona? It's not a tri-oval. That's at Talladega, but that's always what I've called it. The front stretch, just coming down the front stretch. I feel like it needs a cool name at Daytona. Got to get the front stretch a cool name. All right. That's going to wrap it up for me, I think, today. I hope everyone enjoys the beautiful week ahead of them. It's only Tuesday. We've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday coming down the line here. You got the whole rest of the week. Speed Week starts tomorrow, technically. We'll see cars on track tomorrow. If you're heading down there, safe travels. If you are at the race, you got some video, tag me in some video. I'd love to see everybody's having their experience while I'm sitting at home. It should be an exciting week. Should be an exciting weekend. And I know Tuesday next week, we're going to have a lot to unpack. We're going to have a lot to talk about in terms of the Xfinity series and the Cup series and even some of the truck stuff. We can get a Cletus update and really see, kind of how things are going to shape up for Atlanta. Again, this time last year, Atlanta, closest finish in NASCAR history. Suarez winning that race. So a lot of good things to look forward to. Really excited for the 2025 season. Again, if you're not following along Above the Yellow Line Media, make sure you're checking out everything Above the Yellow Line on YouTube, Facebook, X. Make sure you're checking it out on TikTok. Make sure you're following along, subscribing to the newsletter. Follow Sal on Instagram and TikTok at SlideJobSal. We're getting close to our goals. Hopefully 5,000 on TikTok soon. Hopefully 2,000 on Instagram soon. We're building brick by brick, and it's all thanks to you guys. And I have a lot to be grateful for, and I am to all y'all who come in here and chat with me and support the conversation each and every week. In addition to kind of consuming some of that short form video stuff. So I look forward to a great season, getting things ready, getting some short form video stuff done this year. That's where you'll see me in the most part. I tried the long form video for YouTube. It's just not for me. I like the short stuff. I think that's where I'm happiest. So that's where you'll find. But I appreciate everybody again. Thanks for stopping in. If you haven't followed, give wherever you're watching, hit that follow button, and we'll see you next week.